Hello everyone. In Procreate, if we have groups, we can export as a PSD to be able to still have access to those groups in Tahoma. So choose the PSD options from the sharing settings, airdrop over to your computer, and then just make sure you accept on the computer side. Now, if you have a file that does not have groups, or you don't care about keeping the groups available, you just want the images themselves, you can go to the sharing settings and share as PNG files to bring into Tahoma and finish the animation on that end. Again, airdrop over to your computer, except on that end. Now, in Procreate Dreams, this is a little bit different. So you open your file, you click on the name of your file. If you haven't renamed it, it'll be Dreams 1, 2, or whatever that happens to be. Go to the sharing settings. You can customize what type of format the images get exported as if you want to, and then just choose frames as images. Once it's finished exporting, you'll airdrop it over to your computer, except on that end, depending on how long this may take a little bit of time. And then you'll be ready to bring your images into Tahoma. Now I'm going to go over how to actually bring those images into Tahoma from Procreate or Procreate Dreams, or even another app. So always, first of all, make sure that you have the correct project selected. You don't want to have the sandbox active. You can always make a new project if you need to. I'm just going to go with the one that's active right here. Then a scene name and create scene. All right, now I'm going to head over to the browser room. And if I go to downloads, I have a folder that is set up with some things that I've exported. And if I come over to this folder right here, you'll notice that this recognizes my image sequence, and it's been named properly. So I can right click and load from here. Or if I come over to Finder, you can see the naming system. There's a period, then the number. Anything that's named like this with either a period or an underscore and then the number should load automatically as an image sequence. All I need to do is just drag the first image and it's going to import the entire sequence. So really nice and easy there. And again, if I'm loading from Finder, just drag and drop one image. Now, if the name is using a different format, like over here, you can see that this sequence is just all numbers and it's not putting them all together as a single sequence with a number of frames. So that is going to need to be fixed. And same thing over here. You have everything individually because the format is wrong. Now in this case, I can just right click on one of the images, rename it. It's just going to automatically rename that into an image sequence. And we can see the sequence right here. And I can just right click and load and import. And now that sequence has been added. That's actually just exactly the same thing. All right, now the other folder over here where it's just numbers, if I try to rename it in the browser, notice it's not going to be renaming it as a sequence because it just has a number. It doesn't even have a name. So I'm going to need to fix that using Finder instead. So here's Finder, here's the folder. I'm just going to select all of the images. So that's just Shift, click to select multiple. And I'm going to click on the rename option. Now, if I change this to format, I can give this some sort of name. And just going to put a period in, or sorry, I'm just going to put an underscore in front of the name. It could also be a period, and starting at whatever number I want. And then I'm going to rename it. So now these are all recognized as being part of a sequence. So that should be okay. So I can just right click and load and import. Or again, I could have dragged and dropped just a single image from the sequence, and it would have worked that way as well. All right, I'm going to delete the layers that I have here, and now I'm going to show you what to do with a PSD file if that's what you exported from Procreate. So I'm just going to come over to Finder. I have my PSD. I can just, let me try that again. I can just drag and drop it, import, and you'll notice that there are several options in terms of how I can load this. I can load this just as a single flat image and ignore all of the different, ignore that this is actually animated. I can load this as flattened frames, and I can load this as columns, and so the columns act as layers. So I'm going to set this to columns this time, and I'm going to expose the layers in the group as columns in a subscene. So I'm just going to say OK, and we can see what this looks like. Now the background layer there wasn't in a group, so it's just there and empty. I can either keep it or delete it depending on what I want. And I'm just going to drag all of these down. And this part is just a little bit slow going, but just dragging them so that they're all in the correct order. And now if I play or scrub through, we can see the animation as it's intended to be. Now these are all what we call subscenes. And so with the subscene, I actually have this little toggle over here to enable some subscene navigation. And I can click on column 1, and then you can see I have access to both of the layers. I can go back to main, and because each one of these is a separate subscene, I'll have to go into them individually. When I go back to main, and I can keep repeating that process as needed to just see and adjust and do whatever I need to do. But this is all in order. I still have access to the layers, so that's something that's particularly helpful about working with PSDs. I'm going to load the PSD a second time, and let's try that again. There we go. It's going to ask if I want to keep it because I've already imported it, or do I want to overwrite it or just rename it. I'm going to keep the existing file, and this time I'm going to load as frames. And so this gives me the flat images instead, and I'm just going to remove. If I want to get rid of the extra frames here, I can just right click and remove empty columns. And that is how you import into Tahoma.